What's happening, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Before I bring my guest on today, the message of the week. Recently, I was watching the Lex Friedman podcast episode featuring John Danaher, two people who I could listen to for hours and hours on end. I think my guest could probably concur with that. And I think it was one of Lex's viewers asked a question, hoping to get an answer from John Danaher. For those of you who don't know, he's one of the most critical thinkers in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, was one of the main instructors at Renzo Gracie Academy until just a few months ago. And now maybe coming to Tejas, where my guest today is also located. Lucky you. And so one of Lex's guests asked, what is the best martial art for self-defense? And of course, all of us were thinking John's going to say Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because that's what we live by. But what he really said was, it doesn't matter. What matters is this degree of live application the place you're studying or the martial art you're studying incorporates into the trainings. Meaning that if you went on to elaborate, if you're at a school where you're mainly doing drilling with non-resisting opponents, and that's all you know, when you get into a street scuffle, it might be it might not be applicable. Whereas you could have like a blue belt instructor or almost a hack, of sorts in whatever martial art you're training. But if there's a very live component where you're under pressure with heavy resistance and you have to manage the chaos to be able to control the outcome, whoever's training like that is most likely going to control an actual situation. So it really doesn't matter. And the way that applies to what we are going to talk about today has to do with marketing in a highly regulatory environment, which we're starting to see get even tighter grips, for another jiu-jitsu analogy. And a lot of people, started their company in good times when people were spending money, there were no pandemics. And I'd say, I don't want to say it's easy to market in that climate, but it's easier. And now we're finding just tremendous amounts of, whether you're a business owner or you're an agency, and you're trying to market to consumers, where city by city, state by state, region by region, there's constantly changing, almost whimsical regulatory. I don't even know. I'm going to try to refrain from four-letter words today, but some are definitely going to slip out. As well as finicky consumer confidence. I mean, consumers are a wild card to begin with, but now it's even more chaos to manage. So today we're welcoming back to the show. He's the president of his own agency, marketing agency, as well as a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. So he understands this on multiple levels. Ryan Kovack, he's based in Texas. Like I said, he's about to inherit John Danaher and Gordon Ryan and sneak in for some of those good classes. Make sure you unmute yourself before you come on, Ryan. I see the little red dot.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. You hadn't said anything yet. So, or if you did, we didn't hear you. I was talking too much. Anyways,
I was waiting on you, brother.
Yeah. So welcome back. Ryan was on the show several months ago, really just talking about what it's like to start a marketing agency, a digital agency. He did that largely during the pandemic. So he's really started from the bottom, as we often do in jiu-jitsu, and had to work his way up. So today I really want to talk about, we've seen just increasing regulation. It keeps changing. Some of it makes sense. Some of it doesn't make sense. And it's different region by region, state by state. Some of it's federally based. How are agencies responding to this? You're somebody that works with, customers all over the country. How are the people responding? I'm sure you're aware of the newest regulatory, implementation here in New York City, dealing with vaccines and literally attacking the things that we love, right? I feel personally attacked. It's restaurants, music venues, and gyms. And I'm like, did you pull my name out of a hat and say, what does this guy love? Let's. So I feel personally attacked, Bill.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah.
As somebody who's been an entrepreneur my whole life and comes from an entrepreneur family. So my family was in a business during the dot-com bust which was hardcore.
Yep.
We were in business during 9/11, which was hardcore. And, you know, we were in business in the 07-08 housing crash and things like that, which was hardcore. But we've never seen anything like this. And the difference between all of those other aspects, in my opinion, is if you take 9/11, for instance, tragic, brought the world to its knees kind of a thing, but you had all of America together. The people of America were together. Regardless of whether they were for war or against war, it didn't matter. Everybody pulled together. There was no polarization. We were one unit with a driven force. Now what you have is a two-tiered system in this society of what I would call, if you don't know, look it up, the star belly sneeches, right? Some people have stars on their bellies and some don't. And I think when you get to that point, you have probably one of the most dangerous times that a country can face. Because when some can do some things that others cannot, based on a patch on your arm, a piece of paper in your hand, a poison you put in your arm, or whatever, then you're running high risks of massive civil unrest. So as a business, again, I've got customers in California, New York, Austin, all very liberal minded. I've got customers in Fort Worth and Atlanta and Nashville, all very conservative minded, or whatever you want to call it, all different thoughts about everything that's going on right now. But what everybody, I think, can agree on is that they cannot stand the other side. Okay. And that's difficult from a guy that these are my clients.
Yeah.
I don't ever refrain from what I think, but I should. But as a guy that's on the inside, my job is not to judge my clients. It's to help them grow regardless. They're paying me to do that. And that's what I'm going to do. So how do you, restaurant owner in New York, being squeezed, or a gym owner who I'm very close to many, and these guys work their asses off. There is not a lot of money in it. It's a passion, and what money they do make, they've worked and sweat and bled for it. And then you come in, an activity that boosts your immune system, that brings your obesity down and your BMI down, and improves your heart rate and blood pressure and everything that's good for the body, you're going to shut down. Getting outside and meeting with people and eating at places, which is healthy for your mind and healthy for everything about you, you're going to shut down. In my opinion, and I'll get back to marketing in a second, in my opinion, either you are not a smart individual if you're making these policies at all, and they're not based on an ounce of science whatsoever, or you've got an agenda. And both are just as bad, because if you're in a leadership position and you're that ignorant, that's terrible. And if you're in a leadership position and it's an agenda, that's terrible. So it's terrible all the way around. Now, that's all I'll say on that. I think you can probably see where I lean, and it's infuriating to me. We're destroying the meat of America, and that's the small business owner that's putting their life, their mortgage, and everything on the line. Meanwhile, anything and everything that buys directly from China is just allowed to stay open. People can crowd those places, be in those places, touch everything in those places, and some stupid piece of plastic is supposed to be smart enough to know that this virus is just not going to go around. So I'm off my soapbox. How do you market? Well, you've got to get innovative. Bottom line, innovation is going to save you. How do you innovate? Depends on what industry you're in. right? But innovation is going to be the lifeblood of who sees this to the other side. So now we can talk about that, or we can talk about what that means, but business as usual is over. You can't turn the lights on. Oh, wait, turn them off. Turn the lights on. Oh, wait, turn them off. Doesn't work like that. Right. You know, if you're into the rental property business for over a year, you haven't been able to force collect any of the rent from your people. That's insane. And I'll tell you why it's insane. There's so many jobs available. Nobody should not be able to pay their rent. I specifically work in the staffing industry. My clients are telling me that they have more open orders for more jobs than the law should ever allow. They're begging people to come to work. Yet you can sit and squat in somebody's house that you're renting and not pay the bills. So what are rental property owners going to have to do? Either one, get innovative, and I don't know what that means yet. We got to figure that out. Or two, they've got to unload their wealth. Tragic, absolutely tragic. What we're doing.
They are small business owners. Like people,
that's what they are.
They don't really see it that way. And I'm fortunate to be very close to a bunch of property owners, just small property owners.
They've got three or four, two or three. They're not these. Yeah. They're not these conglomerates. They're passive. Their income is from a few properties.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take our first break. Hang tight. We'll be right back. See you in a few. All right, everybody, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Again, welcoming back to the show, Ryan Kovack. He is the president of, can I get the RKCMO, correct? I got that right?
Absolutely.
I said it like 4 times before the show, and I was like, I'm going to fuck it up.
A lot of letters there, man.
A lot of letters.
I'm just making you think.
I know, thank you. Well, after I got past through the black belt gauntlet for 2.5 hours this morning. So nice. I think they took all my, I got a question for you before I go on, because I got a stat I wanted to throw out related to what you just said. So lately I've been called to train by like a bunch of black belts. I can't tell if I'm just the rest round or are they like, oh, okay. I'm not sure if it's an insult or a compliment yet. And as a black belt, I'm curious what your take would. I mean, like a lot. Like sometimes it's like 4 or 5 back to back to back, and I'm like,
always a compliment. In my opinion, none of my black belt friends or us are calling any blue, purples, or browns around if we're not getting a lot of value out of their rolling. And I mean, there's some monster blue belts, dude.
Yeah, no, they kick my ass all the time. My buddy just got promoted to purple last week, and I was like, I am so glad you got this belt. And he was looking at me kind of funny. He's like, okay. And I was like, no, it's embarrassing to get my ass kicked by a blue belt. Like, at least now we're the same level.
Well, if you think about it, so like, I mean, I've been coaching some kids from the time they were 4. They went all the way through green belt. Then they got 17 years old and got their blue belt. These guys are black belts, dude.
Yeah.
They'll murder you. Then they hit that testosterone and they're 200 pounds and they look like Schwarzenegger, and their body moves. They're not injured, and they'll just beat your ass. Yeah. So don't ever sleep on a blue belt, man.
No, never. I take them. When the black belt this morning, one of the highest ranked black belts in the room was like, "You got somebody?" And I was like, "Well, I was supposed to train with this blue belt over there." And he's like, "Yeah, come on." And I was like, "This is gonna be better for me," because the blue belt just, he goes.
But no, it's always. I've never known any. If you're being invited to the room, it's because they are getting some good rounds and value out of it. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll sleep a little better tonight.
Makes your heart feel a little better. Yeah. So
I'm like, man, because I mean, they just ride me for the most part. You know, it's not like I'm getting done. I'm just like on the bottom. So I'm like, is this good for you? Or is this just like, are you just taking it easy because you know you got like this other like big brown belt next, and you're like, I only conserve a little energy and just like work with technique?
Nah, I mean, not at all. And it could be that you're one that doesn't just lay there. I mean, you know, a lot of times if you're really active and moving and shrimping and hip escaping from the bottom, and they're having to stay super active from the top, that's very helpful, because let's face it, there's a lot of dudes that you start knee on belly and and strong side control and all that. I mean, you gas them and they just lay there. They're not moving and all that. It's no good, so.
Yeah, generally I move. There's one guy, he's just huge and he gets on top of me. And
it's like you're trying to move.
Yeah, I can't though. And after our first round, he was like, "I'd like to see more offense from you." And I was just like, I just don't even know what.
I'd like to breathe.
But it's gotten better since. And he's like, "Yes, purchase on the floor with the feet, shrimping and bridging," like you said. He's like, "Give me something to work with," and it's gotten better. But it's just massive. So.
But that's really helping you. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it is. No, I get it. It's helping me. I'm just hoping it's helping them. Yeah. So to your point about, labor and unfulfilled orders, right now, the Department of Labor just kicked out stats yesterday. That was reading this article about, how they're not extending unemployment. Please
stop that.
Fucking people back to work. Get it off the seat and let's go. And,
amen.
It's like, if you're that scared, get the shot. If that's what you need, whatever, just like, let's get back to it. But they were saying the amount of available jobs far exceeds the amount of people out of work right now.
So prior to the pandemic, we had a 3% unemployment rate. And let me explain to you, I've been in the employment sector, staffing, HR, and all that for over 20 years. You're considered 100% employed in the US with a 5%. Because there's 5% of the population that either can't or won't work.
Right.
So when you are at 3%, you're defying all the odds. There are so many jobs, it's insane. Get everybody off. It's ridiculous. It's an embarrassment to our nation. It's an embarrassment to the people that you're actually giving the money to, because it's unnecessary. I know restaurants around here, half of them are drive-through only. And Texas does not have a mask mandate, a vaccine mandate. We're wide open. Okay. Right. The restaurants most of them are like, go through the drive-through only due to short staff. Every one of them's got huge signs outside saying, we're hiring, instant on the spot approval,
right,
and all this. I mean, Starbucks has a sign outside right now that says full college tuition 100% paid for part-time and full-time. This is insanity, what we are dealing with in this country. It is utter nonsense and insanity. I'm going to give you, because I think this pertains to marketing and business. Let me tell you my personal experience real quick. In November, my wife and I both got COVID. I was very sick. She was not. She had a headache and a cold and just generally felt tired and lousy. But she was up. She was helping the kids. She was doing stuff. Obviously not going to work, but she was staying inside, but she was doing things around the house. She was fixing stuff and everything else, right? Kind of having a normal crummy day. I was in bed sick. She's a healthcare professional, so obviously they have to take the vaccine. So she got vaccinated in February. Last month, we both got COVID again, I guess the Delta variant, which there's no real test for. She's fully vaxxed from February. 3 weeks in bed, dying, sick as a dog. I'm caring for her this time. I'm positive with it. I've got a runny nose, a headache, and a sore throat. And I got up every day, worked from home, but I got up every day and did a normal work day while I stayed home and took care of her. I'm not vaxxed. We have got to promote health in the society and stop the fear. A healthy body is what you need. We don't value health. We just don't. And I feel like the body is built to understand these viruses. I mean, coronavirus is the cold, different version. It's a much more lethal-ish version. But we've learned we've never had a cure for the common cold, ever. We never will. Respiratory illnesses and viruses have never had successful vaccines. We know this vaccine is not successful. People are still spreaders. They can still get it. They're still getting sick. And they have the same viral load as everybody else. We need to stop the bullshit and the lies. And we need to get back to work, because the biggest economic problem that we have is people giving up, depression, fear, losing everything, locked inside, out of the sun, not going to the gym, kids masks on their face all day, which is a tragedy in my opinion. I mean, you are destroying the country for the sake of trying to save it. So from a business standpoint, what I really think, if you really want my opinion, because I don't think this is going to get any better, I think business owners such as yourself, let's say the restaurant industry, I don't know how you can innovate anymore. You guys have curb pickup, you've got home delivery, you've done as much really as you can. You can't send a waiter to somebody's house and wait on them. Their kitchen isn't prepared to do what you need to do. So it's a little hard to innovate beyond what you've done, right? I think at this point, we're so far down the rabbit hole that I think the restaurant industry has, and it's, again, we're so polarized, it'll probably never happen. But I think the restaurant industry in places like New York, where they're just squeezing you guys and asking y'all to somehow be the police of vaccines and violate, in my opinion, people's personal health and all of that. It's disgusting. But I think that you guys need to, at this point, band together and just literally get your torches and pitchforks and
tiki
fight
torches.
and fight
tiki
your government.
torches, right? It was tiki torches.
And fight your government. I mean, at the end of the day, that is marketing. At the end of the day, there's a lot of people not taking the vaccines that want to go eat at your place. And there's a lot of people that want to go eat at your place and all these other things. I just feel like, I don't know what else you can do to innovate other than curbside pickup and house deliveries and all these things to make it as easy as possible, right? But it's food. The gym, you can't innovate. Somebody can't work out at the gym if they're not at the gym. It's tough. What I think it's going to take is people banding together, using their intelligence, looking around and saying, this is bogus, and really fighting. I don't know, man.
That's the only way to counter what's going on right now. Well, there's two things I think. Jiu Jitsu, 101. You either fight back, or you be patient and look for an opening and look for, kind of wait for
if you can survive it.
If you can survive it, right? That's it. That's your only other option. So either requires innovation.
Yes.
The patience route just has a lot more gray area. And so you can't be risk averse. And the people that have made it so far, most are not. You can see it. I think anybody that, you were talking earlier about, really being innovative. Most of us have that already. To just start your own business, it requires
you're already innovative.
Yeah, you're creative. You're used to the gray area. You're used to the chaos. If you do jiu-jitsu as well, double bonus. You're used to extra chaos and kind of making order out of it. But they've for the most part banded together here, and they've made their decision. And overwhelmingly, it sides with the city regulation. A lot of them feel that they stand to make more money, and I think it's a short term. I think it's more like we stand to do better in the next year if we take this route, because it encourages people to come back in. Like, nobody's talking about spacing things out again, or like here, it's not even a mask mandate. It's just the vaccine mandate. You still are not required to wear a mask. Businesses are not required to, to demand, mask wearing for you to come in. They're not talking about spatialization anymore or anything like that. It's just literally show your card, and that's going to be good enough right now, even though we know everybody can still spread it, everybody still carry it. If you have the vaccine, you might not get as sick as you would without it, but that's still like it's happening, it's still happening. So,
well, if that was the case, now they're pushing the third shot.
Oh, they already are. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fourth. And, it's kind of like that. Infomercial, but wait, there's more.
There's
right?
more. Yep.
I don't know, man. Look, I think if the general population is cool with getting vaccinated, and you're just, you're the business owner, and you're just like, okay, cool, you guys are all vaccinated, come on in, right? I mean, they're making their own personal decisions to do that.
But they're making the employees as well.
Right. So this is where I was going to go. Now I'm talking from the customer side, so that's cool. But from the business side, I don't want the liability of checking people's cards and papers. It feels so grimy and dirty to me that it's so un-American. It feels horrible, number one. But the liability, if somebody showed me, let's say, a forged card, am I liable? How closely do I have to look? Because I know here in Texas, the TABC that monitors alcohol for bars and stuff, regardless, if they show you an ID, the bar and the door guy and the bartender and everything is still responsible to make sure that it is a legit ID. Okay. And if it's not, they can lose their liquor license, be fined. They can even go to jail. I mean,
they haven't fleshed any of that out yet, but they're rolling. Yeah, they're rolling out. So
what does that mean for you guys?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, you've got somebody like myself whose father died in his late 50s from a massive heart attack. Nobody else I always thought I was lucky. Everybody in my family's lived to be forever, right? All 80s and 90s. But he died from a massive heart attack in his 50s. So my doctors are like, just for precaution, take a low dose aspirin every day. We do know that the vaccine does inflame the heart. That's not disputed. There's heart inflammation with the vaccine. So people with any type of heart issues should really not take the vaccine. It's actually not good for that. So I've got this wonderful employee, been loyal, does a great job and everything else, and may have that in his family. And the vaccine, are they offering people any kind of exemptions based on that? And if they aren't, you're faced with going and saying, Susie or Jim, I got to cut you loose. That is insane.
Right. They are, but again, that hasn't been rolled out. Like my wife she's an educator in the Department of Ed here in New York City, and people are getting exemptions to work from home. And some of them are they're just obese, and they're getting work exemptions for that. And then
which they should, because that's the number one reason you're going to die from COVID.
What they should,
and everything else under the sun.
They should do is get off their ass and do some work.
I agree.
All right. So, let's take another break before I say something to get us all in trouble. I'm just kidding. I give no shits. All right, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute. Hang tight.
All right.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Again, if you're just tuning in, the Entrepreneurial Web, I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Zoom into Texas today, talking with Ryan Kovack. He's a president of RKCMO, as well as a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. And we're talking about marketing under high regulatory environment, region by region, state by state, some federal issues as well. And particularly, we were highlighting some of the issues that restaurant owners, gym owners, and venue owners are facing here in New York. And with the newest regulation, where you may not enter the premises unless you have proof of vaccine. Where I was just pointing out that, and this was the thing, they keep changing and rolling out new aspects of it. They were like, at first, they just have to show proof of vaccination. It could be 4 different forms of proof. And one of them could just be a photo of one of the forms of proof on their phone. So they can just literally hold up their phone and you say, carry on as you were. And then they amended it the other day to say, now you must also check their ID, and the ID has to match the information. So now, as you were pointing out, like every state has its own governing body for the sale of alcohol. And of course you have to be 21, and establishment owners and management are required to verify that,
the legitimacy.
And it could be, their passports, it could be, IDs from all 50 states plus Puerto Rico, and now we have to match that against a card, knowing that we're understaffed.
Knowing that you're understaffed.
And they, I don't want to complain anymore, but Senate just shot down a replenishment of the restaurant revitalization fund. Like, no, they're good. Everything's fine. They're good.
They're great.
So the question is, we're not making enough money. You got guys like Danny Meyer who are championing this whole thing. He's got more money than God. He can staff however he wants.
Sure.
But the little guys like us, we have to do it. My wife and I have to do it. That's it. There's nobody else. We're understaffed. We're not making enough money. Now things are taking longer. We're not getting any assistance. How do we market to get more business? And the other question is, why would we if we're overwhelmed already and we're not making enough money?
Yeah, you're overwhelmed with what you've already got. Asking for more could overwhelm you more, but you have to, because you've got to make the money. Oh boy. Well, not to sound like the cheap way out of things. Okay. Because again, let's put it into jiu-jitsu terms. If I am in somebody's closed guard and they have a perfectly established Kimura grip on my arm, and I don't have a hold of my leg, my pant leg, my gi, or anything, my hand is separated from my body, I'm probably gonna have to tap. Okay. And don't take this the wrong way as a depressing thing, right? But sometimes we can't defeat the monster. So you mentioned Danaher and Gordon. Do you think it's a mistake that they're coming to Texas?
Do I think it's a mistake?
No, I mean, by mistake.
No, not at all.
Do you think it's by mistake that I literally, Jeremiah, if I wanted to right now, and I had wads of cash in hand, I literally cannot go and buy a house in Texas right now. Within 24 hours, every home here has 50 cash offers on it before it ever makes to the MLS. And if you want to build a new home, it's 8 months out. They won't tell you what the price is until it's actually finished. Then they'll tell you what the price is. And you had better already have your loan and your cash ready. Why? Because Texas and Florida are saying, come and do business. There's no mandates. We're open. Ironically, our hospitals are not overwhelmed, regardless of what people tell you. They're not. Only 14% of our ICU beds are COVID beds. And they had to put out a statement at one of our hospitals downtown that my wife works at that said, please stop coming here just because you tested positive. There's no need for that, but that jacks up the numbers and everything else. My wife has been at a downtown hospital for 15 years. They opened up a COVID floor in the very beginning, found out they didn't need it and shut it down. They've never reopened it. And we are in a place that has been fairly open for business the entire time without mask mandates. Gyms are wide open. Restaurants are completely open. All of that. Are people getting COVID? Yes. Are they dying? No. Actually, if you look at the app that tracks, I'm in a county of 2.5 million people. For the last 3 months, there's been 80 deaths from COVID. Those deaths are all 70 plus years old, with only like 1 or 2 falling below the 50-year-old mark and all of that. It's insanity. This is insanity. But I know so many small business owners that are leaving California and leaving these high regulation places and coming to these states. I mean, sometimes you're just caught in a Kimura.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to say this is going somewhere, but it's not.
It's fun. And thank you for, especially sharing the situation about the housing issue there. Cause literally I was driving through Brooklyn when they announced the new mandate here, whatever it was, like 2 weeks ago, Tuesday or something like that. And my first instinct was, I think Austin needs a place with fresh pasta. I just feel it. I think there's,
dude, Dallas, Austin,
like there might
Houston.
be opportunity there.
Come to Fort Worth. We have a beautiful downtown. We're wide open.
Where am I going to live? We're 5 deep.
Yeah, no, that sounds like such a quitter mentality.
I know.
But it's not. I mean, it's survival.
No, I understand. But I also, like, aside from all the shit that's happening right now, I do love New York. And
of course.
There's so many great things about what's happening in my life right now that I don't want,
Sure.
But it definitely crossed my mind. And immediately you saw places close. So here's the thing, announcements made. And like you said, there's just so much in the context of social media and the mainstream media, where it's like these announcements come out and it's just panic. And you see restaurants and coffee shops just immediately like, you know what, they're just like, we're going to close for a little while. And it's like, how can you keep closing for a little while? There's no more PPP. There's no more restaurant revitalization fund. Like where's the money coming from? And how do you come back? How do you recuperate? I mean, if you've got like the most gracious landlord, okay, fine. But that's only one component. Like you still have outstanding balances with vendors. You still probably owe,
if you're a specialty, if you've got a legit specialty restaurant, you're not some chain or just doing, bacon and eggs, right? I mean, if you're doing your own unique recipes and everything else, how long can you tell your chefs that know your taste, your recipes and all that to go sit at home?
Correct. And bring them back. Right.
And then somehow bring them back. If you send them home, they've got to feed their families. Right. So okay, let's talk about the positives, because we could go on and on and on about the insanities of all of this.
Right.
I think
we have to come to a conclusion at some point.
yeah, you got to come to a conclusion. So I think number one, I mean, if they're going to make your employees and everything get vaccinated, I think you just have to bite the bullet and say vaccination is required to work here. We're in the food industry, right? That's got to be dealt with. Okay. I think once you are there, let's just be real. I mean, you're sitting actually in a golden opportunity because, in the Great Depression, there's graphs going back over 100 years of in bad times, 9/11, the dot-com bust, all these things that have happened, the world wars and all that. Companies that beefed up their marketing in these bad times gobbled up all of the Chicken Littles, the people that either went out of business, the sky was falling, or people that cut their marketing budget. So this is data going back well over into the early 1900s that I want to say McKinsey or one of them has tracked it for that long. And it's not even close. Companies that beef up their marketing in bad times usually actually experience a growth. I can tell you in my experience during especially the 07, 08, 09 housing crash and all this, staffing industry, which is my biggest industry that I market for, they just all slashed their marketing. All of them, just immediately overnight, I lost half of my business. Okay. However, there was a few that called me, Ryan, we want to step on the gas. And I said, well, number one, you're gonna have to pay me more because I've lost half my business.
Right.
Okay. And I need to up your cost to me. But I believe what you're doing is right. Those 4 or 5 companies, this was 12 years, 13 years ago. Okay. Those 4 or 5 companies who were what I would call mid-range, not well-known, not unknown, are Dallas, Austin, Houston dominators right now. Mm-hmm. Like dominators.
I believe it.
And so if you're out there listening to this and you own a small business, and like you just said, a bunch of people just shut their doors. We'll come back in a few months and see. Just that's the time to maybe take $400 and put it into some IG ads, put it into some Facebook ads. We're open for business. Look at this beautiful picture of our wonderful pasta. Come, everybody's vaccinated, so you're safe. Speak that language. You're safe. We check vaccine cards. We're awesome. And look at this beautiful pasta. Probably going to get flooded with people, right? I mean, I don't know. Again, can you handle the business?
Right.
Great.
It's a good problem to have. Very good. Yeah. This is where I wanted to get to. And I want to get even more specific. We're going to take one more break and then really go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You're on to something now. You smell the trail.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Very good.
All right, let's hop right back into it because we were hot on something and I like where this is going. So you were just, talking about there's this opportunity. You start to see places close, new regulations introduced, people start to freak out. Sure, it hurts you initially. And we saw it. We saw a retraction where things were like humming, like all through July. We were humming. And usually July kind of slows down. Everybody was traveling. We knew that was coming. Yeah. So excuse me. Usually for us, that signals because we're in a residential area and we're in an income area where they're travelers, these are people.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's who that's our main demographic. So you would expect us to slow down, but no, man, it was a rally. It was really great. As soon as they made that announcement though, boom, we're back to 50% takeout, even though we changed nothing. We still operating the way we were before, but you have to monitor consumer behavior and try to dial it in, man. Where's that needle going to land? But you're right. Places did close down right away. So there is still this opportunity. Somehow you have to muster up first the funds, but I think it has to be a specific marketing campaign. What I wouldn't want to do is say hey, half off, 2-for-1 pastas every Tuesday, because you're going to get slammed. You're going to be overwhelmed.
Why should you?
Right. I think you need to be specific about the call to action if you create one, or are we just thinking more long-term and brand building so that when things do loosen up and people are more ready to come back, you are top of mind?
Top of mind.
Curious your opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is now the time to beef up your marketing, which is what we're talking about. Again, some paid social. We're open for business. Look at this, some great photos of your stuff, all this. There's another area that we haven't even spoken of, and that's productization. Look, you've got a restaurant. It's going, right? There's got to be some sort of, I don't know, sauce or something you guys have that everybody just raves about and loves. Look at product packaging and e-commerce and selling that direct and getting that out and maybe getting it into your local, grocery store and things like that on the shelf. I mean, again, innovation, right? You may have to productize some of your stuff and all of that, right?
And then, so how does this apply to gyms? We're talking a lot about restaurants. Thank you. I appreciate all the good information. But what does a gym owner do? I mean, you can do virtual classes. You can sell hoodies and hats and, whatever. But if people are afraid to come in, what does your marketing look like? You're dedicated to staying open. You're doing virtual classes. You're working with the handful of people that are still willing to come in, or the ones that are vaccinated and they've got all their paperwork in alignment. And you're like, okay, yes, you can come in. But this causes friction. First and foremost, this is immediate friction, rather unnecessary immediate friction, which is my biggest beef with it. It's there's all forms of friction. You're always going to have some, but this is unnecessary friction.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about just super shutdown type stuff, it's again, you might be in the Kimura. If you're talking about the gym owners got to make sure that people are vaccinated and verified, I think at that point, they've got to, check their own conscience. If they don't want the vaccination or not, they may, and if they're cool with it, take it. And if you're cool with making your employees take it, then what ends up happening is again, I think you have to, as a gym, beef up your marketing, because you are going to get other people that either have conscious objectives, objections to vaccine verification, or getting it themselves. They want to use natural immunity or whatever, and they might close their door, or they might just be demoralized. You're going to have to beef up your marketing. You're going to have to tell people you're open for business. You're going to have to tell people that you're abiding by strict guidelines and that you're following all the regulations. And look, people are getting healthy here. People are getting healthy here. Market. And I'm not talking about just to your echo chamber. I'm not talking about just to the people that are already members and on your list and on your email list and on your Facebook page. I'm talking about true external marketing of, like I said, maybe some targeted paid social, things like that. And put some budget behind it and say, we're all in, and all of that. I just feel like, again, if it's complete shutdown, you're in the Kimura. Right. If it's, you can do business, you just have to verify these things. I think you just have to verify those things. And I think you will have a lot of people shutter or slow down or feel demoralized. And that's when you've got to get energized and beef up all of your communication. It's just, to me, it's just, that's those are your choices. Now, like you said, doing virtual classes, virtual group classes, Zoom classes, things like that, filming your techniques and everything and selling them, who knows?
John Danaher did really well with that one.
Well, he did really well. And so is Gordon Ryan and guys like that. But obviously, I don't move like Gordon Ryan. So nobody's gonna buy my DVD, except for like my mom, because she feels really sorry for me. And she's like, this is neat. But you get what I'm saying? Like, and look, man,
I do.
If COVID's done anything, it really, if we want to look at, survival of the fittest, it really has. It really has. Yeah. It absolutely has said, the cream rises to the top. And that's just a fact. The cream rises to the top. People are going to have to just be more focused on market share, in my opinion, gathering more than they had before, picking up the lost pieces from people that gave up or couldn't keep their doors open or whatever. I think whatever you're spending on marketing, double it, and go full steam ahead. So storytelling's great,
What if it's zero? Because 2 times 0 is still 0. I'm kidding.
Yeah, true. And the sad reality is a lot of companies that come to me when they're very sales heavy. They've got salespeople. They're doing zero marketing. So any marketing is an improvement, right? But yeah, I just think now's the time. If you're in this for the long game, for the people out there, if this is the long game for you, and there's no chance in hell you're shutting your business down, you're in this. You can survive. Now is the time to take that double leg blast and go. Go.
Nice.
And I think you'll do fine. Again, they're not shutting you down.
No.
Yeah,
it's just a modification.
Just a modification. So I've spoken a lot.
We got to wrap up too. That was perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping to get out of it. It definitely helped me, and I know a bunch of people listening. That's
for sure.
It's definitely the kind of insight they were looking for. It's just that push. We need that push. That's why we got to have black belts around.
Gotta.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. Always
absolutely, Jeremiah.
Really great stuff. Look forward to talking to you again soon, everybody. I'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend. Peace out.
See you, brother.
Thanks, man.